It was 2 a.m. Ibrahim Traoré was still in his office. Phones were ringing nonstop. The central bank's president, economy minister, and several advisors were in an emergency meeting. Terrible news flashed on the screen. French bank shelled money transfers to Burkina Faso. Suspends loan payments. CFA franc buying withdrawn from market. The country's economic collapse could begin with Traoré slammed his fist on Thietable. This is how they've controlled us for years. Even our money isn't our own thing. He turned to his team and laid out a plan so bold that everyone stared in disbelief. "We can't do this," said the finance minister. "Nobody has ever done it." Traoré smiled. "Then we'll be the first." The tension in the presidential palace's meeting room was palpable. Outside, the lights of Ouagadougou city sparkled, while inside Burkina Faso was being thrown into uncertainty. Ibrahim Traoré walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back. Looking out with thoughtful eyes, "How much reserves do we have?" he asked, without earning from the city. Dr. Amina Kanateth, central bank president, looked at her file. "Officially $400 million, but most of it is held in accounts in Paris. We can't access it now." "And gold?" "Sketra. We have 78 tons of registry gold reserves, but Dr. Kanait hesitate. But that too is in France." Traoré completed with a bitter smile. Economy Minister Ousmane Sonko shifted Dungum fortly in his chair. "Mr. President, you need to understand the seriousness of the situation. You're threatening to leave the West African Economic Union, rejecting the CFA franc is economic suicide. Traoré turned fire and high size or liberation. "Tell me, Sonko, how can we, an independent country, when we can't even print our own money? The CFA franc, the last chain of colonizations, spread his hands all of Africa's. This system, Mali, Niger, Senegal, all of them, and all of them remain perpetual." Said Traoré, approaching the tableau. "You know why? Because every time we print a banknote, we have to deposit dollars to the French treasury in return to pay them to use our own money. Is this freedom?" The meeting room fell into silence. Everyone knew Traoré was right, but there seemed to be no alternative. For 70 years, West African countries had used the CFA franc. The French colonial monetary system independence was just a piece of paper. Real power remained in Paris. Dr. Kanait took a deep breath. "More president. We all know you're right, but practically, what can we do? We don't have the infrastructure to create our own currency. No printing presses, and if people start withdrawing money from banks tomorrow morning." Traoré placed a file on the table. "That's why I've been secretly planning this for the last 3 months." The advisors looked at the file line. "Surprise operation." Sankara said. Traoré Sankara's unfinished dream, financial independence. When he opened the file, everyone in the room gasped. Inside were detailed plans for a new currency to replace the CFA franc, the Burkina gold. "This is impossible," stamped the finance minister. "Orpharon exchange reserves are rent sufficient without international reckoning." Traoré smiled and pulled Asmel's shiny disc from his pocket. It was a gold-colored coin with a baobab tree on one side and the country's map on. Theodore prototype of the Burkina gold Hesed, made from 100% domestic gold, extracted from our own mines, processed in our own soil. But Dr. Kanait searched for words. "Foreign companies control our mines. They monitor our gold exports." Traoré's eyes gleamed. "Not anymore." The economy minister jumped to his feet. "To nationalize the gold mines when officially tomorrow morning," said Traoré calmly. "But the operation began 3 hours ago. The army is now taking control of all mine. French and American compagnie executives are being politely escorted." The border. Those in the room looked at each other in astonishment. The move was bold, dangerous, but also clever. "What about boycott sanctions?" asked Dr. Kanateth. "West will do everything to crush us, of course. They will." Traoré confirmed. "They'll want to punish us, but to punish us, they first need access to us, and this is where the second phase comes in." A button and a world map appeared on the screen, certain. Country swear marked Russia, China, Iran, Turkey, India, Brazil for the past 6 months. We've made secret agreements with the secretaries, said Traoré, direct trade with their own currencies bypassing $1 or euro. We'll sell our gold directly to these countries and they'll provide us with the technology and products. I didn't know about this, said the economy minister, his voice trembling. You didn't need to know. Traoré said kindly, if French intelligence had sensed even the slightest hint, the financial blockade we're experiencing today would have started months ago. Durkinade took the coin in her hand, holding it to the light. Beautiful, she said, but will people accept it? Habits don't change easily. Traoré smiled. People have been storing gold at jewelers for years, offering them something of real value instead of worthless paper money. Bet the real punch is here. He opened a Danard file. Inside were designs for digital wallets. The Burkina digital wallet, said Traoré, a free mobile app for every citizen. Gold-backed digital currencies, 100% transparent, secure, and most importantly, completely outside the Western banking system. The finance minister shook his head. This is cross-and brilliant, but how will we convince it people? Just then Traoré's assistant heard the room. Mr. President, the connection is ready. Traoré turned to his team. Convince the people. Let me show you. The large screen came on screen where leaders from 5 different African countries, Mali, Niger, Guinea, Togo, and Benin presidents, said Traoré. I believe we've all received the same news. The West has pulled its economic weapon again. But this time, we're prepared. Ye want to share our plan. 2 hours later, when the meeting ended, there was a new energy in the room. Fear had given way to determination. Ibrahim Traoré looked at these advisors. Day was breaking dawn. Iscoming, he said. Not just in Ouagadougou. You'd across Africa. Dr. Konet closed a laptop. Will you make the announcement to the people tomorrow morning? Traoré shook his head. Number. I'll do it now. People should know the truth before they go to the bank. They should feel pride, not panic. His request for an emergency broadcast to the national television station was approved within minutes. As team prepared, Traoré examined the appetite in his hand one last time. The gold coin gleamed under the morning sun. Thomas Sanka, he whispered, as he pressing the ghost of the revolutionary leader. Today, we complete our unfinished work. At 6:30 a.m., as people of Burkina Faso were preparing their breakfasts, they were surprised to see President Traoré. On their televisions, he stood in his military uniform, calm but determined. Pays of Burkina Faso. He began, I appear for you in these early hours to make an important announcement. Last night, French banks and Western financial institutions launched an economic war against our country. They cut off our access to our money. They stopped head transfers. They canceled loans and homescapes. And on street screens, people looked at each other with concern. You know why they did this. Traoré continued, because we want our independence, because we demand control of our resources, because we say that Burkina Faso belongs to the Burkina Bay. The camera zoomed in on the gold coin he held in his hand. From today's Westtop, using the colonial currency, the CFA franc, we start using our own money, the Burkina gold, a currency backed by 100% domestic gold carrying real value. Then Hor held up his mobile phone, showing Theep glowing on the screen. And this is the Burkina digital wallet. It will be distributed free to every citizen. You no longer need banks for your money. The digital gold will be directly in your wallet. People stared at the screen in amazement. For some, this was a frightening change. For others, it was a long-awaited liberation. Don't worry, said Traoré, as if reading their thoughts. All money in your CFA franc accounts will be converted to Burkina gold at once. The value, no one will gain after this sentence. Cross the country's small cries of joy and whispered questions could be heard, but most importantly, Traoré continued, we will be the ones controlling our money. We'll be the ones determining our destiny, and we are not doing this. Alaneath screen split, and next to him appeared The faces of other West African leaders. They all conveyed the same message: Mali, Niger, Guinea, Togo and Benin leaving the CFA franc system on Theism Day at the same time and switching to their own gold-backed currency. This is not a revolution, it's an evolution, said Traoré. The final link in our independence. Now we are truly free. When speech ended, something extraordinary began happening in the streets. Instead of rushing to banks in panic, people were discussing the Burkina digital wallet app they had started downloading on their phones. It was simple to use, sleek, and most importantly, it belonged to them. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. In Paris at 7:45 a.m. the French central bank was in an emergency meeting. The executive responsible for the Africa desk was looking at the data on the screen in horror. 6 countries left the system simultaneously. He said, trembling, "This is a coordinated move, and what's more?" "What more?" asked the bank president impatiently. "The digital wallets have been downloaded millions of times in just a few hours. People are accepting this. There's no run on the banks." The president reached for his phone. "I need to call the Ministry of Finance. We must start sanctions immediately." "The ministry is already calling," said the assistant, texting the phone. The voice on the phone was panicked. "The mines are getting energy agreements cancelled, permissions for military bases revoked. All of West Africa is slipping out of our control." In Ouagadougou, Ibrahim Traoré sat in his sofas, monitoring international reactions. As expected, Western media was drawing doomsday scenarios. Economy collapse begins in Africa. West African countries commit suicide. Traoré condemns his people to starvation, but on the other hand, unexpected messages of support were coming in Russia, China, India, Turkey, Brazil, South Africa, all with congratulations, offers of cooperation, and promises to recognize your gold-backed currency. Dr. Kona Tintard. "The room excited. You won't believe it, Mr. President. 4 million people have downloaded the app. That's nearly a fifth of our population." Trough smiled. "People have tasted freedom. Kona tethers. No going back now. And what's more," Dr. Konate continued, "there are thousands of downloads from other African countries to Ghana, Congo. Sagal Avarian is talking about this." A week later, Ibrahim Traoré stood in a small village square. Villagers had gathered around him. An elderly farmer was looking at the phone in his hand. "I don't know how to use this, Mr. President." He sagely. Traoré sat down next to him. "Let me show you," he said gently. "Look, when you press this button, your wallet opens. Harrow can see how many Burkina golds ya have." The old man's eyes lit up. This is the real value of my money." "Yes, father said. Try, and no one can take it from you. Can't freeze your bank account, can't stop transfer. This is your freedom." The villager pressed the mobile phone to his. "For the first time," he said, with a trembling voice, "I feel like my money is safe with me." This simple sentence confirmed the importance of what Traoré had done. This wasn't just an economic move. It was a psychological liberation, and World Bank analysts had predicted that Burkina Faso wouldn't last. For weeks, a month passed, and the economy was still standing. To months passed, and trade volume began to increase. 3 months later, Ibrahim Traoré was invited to the BRICS summit. At that meeting in Moscow, world leaders listened not carefully to Traoré. Eastern and Southern countries wanted to learn the details of West Africa's bold move. "The gold standard was abandoned 50 years ago," said Russian leader. "You're bringing it back is quite interesting. We haven't gone back to the past. True replete. We're going to the future. Digital gold, a currency backed by our own resources, is next generation independence." The Chinese leader leaned forward. "Your digital wallet technology is impressive. It could offer an alternative model. Fourth global financial system." After the summit, the agreements Traoré signed for his country created panic in the Western press. Direct energy and military agreements with Russia, technology and infrastructure projects with China, medicine and agriculture cooperation with India, food security programs with Brazil, industry and education partnerships with Turkey. Western Whisper headlines were alarming. Burkina Faso moving away from the West Syrian Vafrit's Xenia Tro's dangerous game, but Traoré just smiled as he flew back too. His country, we're not moving away from the West, he told Dr. Connatour, just moving closer to the whole world. We no longer have a single master, have many partners on his phone. The Burkina digital wallet app glowed. The statistics were impressive. 12 million active users, 2 million daily transactions across 6 countries, 0 downtime, 0 hacks. 6 months past West Africa's gold-backed currency evolvedento, the African gold 14. African countries joined the system, the old colonial currency, the CFA. Frank Fidedento, the pages of history Ibrahim Traoré, was now seen not just as a country leader, but as a pioneer of a continental movement. One morning at the Epania of the new Central Bank of Burkina Faso building, Traoré stood at the podium behind magnificent gold-plated doors, the country's gold reserve, reclaimed. From the West, we're securalisted today. We're not just opening a building, he told the crowd. We're opening a new page in our history. Once our gold was kept in foreign vaults. Now it's here on our own soil under our own control. Asked crowd applauded. A woman in the back rows was crying. She was Thomas Sankaris, wife, the widow of Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader, the visionary killed in a coup in 1987. He would have loved to see this, she said. Shaking Traoré's hand, financial independence, his greatest dream, were bringing his vision to life, said Traoré. But the only reason we can do this is because of seeds he planted. Outside the Institute, the newly established Burkina Technology Center, young engineers were working. They were developing a new version of the digital wallet, a pempode with blockchain technology, energy efficient, and most importantly designed and coded by Africans. Burkina Faso had not just created a currency, it had built an ecosystem from mining to refining, from digital technology to security. The entire system was designed by Afrikaans for Afrikaanse. IMF president was speaking in front of cameras with a forced smile. Our dialogues with Burkina Faso and its allies continue. We are examining their new currency system. Translation: we can no longer stop them. We have to deal with them. The French president had embarked in an Africa tour. He was promising a new beginning to countries that were once as colonies, but no one believed the old stories anymore. At a press conference, an African journalist asked, how do US's West African countries transition to gold-backed currency? We respect their independent decisions, said the French leader with a tense expression, but I'd like to warn about the risks. His words were cut off by laughter in the room. A year later, Ibrahim Traoré was once again on the international stage, this time at the United Nations General Assembly podium. His speech washered but powerful. A year ago, 6 countries took a bold step. Today, 22 African countries use the United African Gold. Our inflation rate has dropped, or trade volume has increased. Our technological investments have tripled. Western delegates shifted uncomfortably. They told us we couldn't do it. They told us we would collapse. They told us we would starve. Traoré smiled, but we didn't tell them anything. We just did. Ending applause filled the entire hall. An African country had freed itself from centuries of economic bondage, and this was just the beginning. Music